Hey guys, Matt aka Martiln here, and welcome to another episode of Make a Track Monday, a series where I make a track from start to finish as part of Beat Collective's fortnightly challenge. This round's samples have been provided by Melbourne-based chillwave producer Spectoral. I'll link his social accounts down in the description. I also want to mention that he and I recently released a track together called Without You, which is available on all major digital music platforms, so you should definitely go and check that out. I'll make sure to link that down in the description as well. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Alrighty, so as always, I've got the two samples loaded up here in a new Ableton Live session. This sample number one is kind of cool vocal harmonies going on. I'll just play the last one because I think that's probably what I'm going to be using. Pretty cool. And then this second one is interesting. I think we can do a fair bit with this. I'm going to chop it right here because I know I'm going to use that. But it's actually a coffee machine. So the first kind of part here is just a bunch of sounds from the coffee machine. And then this is the coffee machine actually running. So I reckon we could create like a cool synth out of this. And this last part is just some other sounds as well. So I'm gonna get started with this vocal sample actually and see if I can create some kind of pattern or pad out of this one. And I'll be back and I'll show you what I've done. So I have a bit of this housey groove going on here. I've spent a little bit of time on this actually. The first thing I did is took the vocal sample, just that last part that I said I was gonna do, and I just chopped that first part and literally barely did anything to it, and it just got it to sound like this. So it's pretty cool. And then I started adding a bass line. Originally I had this lengthened out, but I just changed it so that it was kind of hitting the same time as the stabs here, the vocal stabs, and it sounds so much better. So it sounds like this. And so I used the middle part of the coffee sample for this one, just this thingy. Just gritty as hell. And just, yeah, filter and some other stuff to it that I could probably get rid of because I'm not using that. Compression and stuff like that. I can go through that in a later video maybe, or at another time. And then I made a kick using a little bit of the coffee machine. I think just this little part here. I'll turn this down. Yeah, just using that little part there, I made a kick drum. Sounds like this. Which is kind of cool. And so altogether, it sounds like this. I think it's pretty cool. So I reckon I'm going to fill out the drum kit a little bit more, probably just using samples from this coffee machine because they're pretty cool, and I think we can do a lot with them. So I'll be back and I'll see you when I see you. So I've made some more drum sounds. I've made a clap and two little like shaker hi-hat things. I've also separated the kick out because it was really annoying me. It was doing some weird stuff when I was stopping it. You probably noticed that previously, but I'll play you I'll just play with the loop that I've got. You probably kind of hear the hi-hat and clap in there. That's all I've really done. I might actually just pan these hi-hats left and right. Get some spread there. Yeah, that sounds cool. So basically what I did, I just took different parts of this coffee sample and the coffee machine sample, and they just sounded kind of good right out of the box pretty much. So I think this is what I used for the clap. Yeah, just that part there. I used these two things for the hi-hats. That one and that one. And I didn't even like move the start point, and it's kind of given it this, if you look here in the simpler devices, these are the two hi-hats. The start point is actually like closer to the middle of the sample, like where the sample actually starts, where the sound starts is right kind of in the middle of the sample. So the start point is a little bit further and it gives it the kind of swing. So if I just play the drums, this like swing makes it kind of groovy, which I think is really cool. So I'm gonna maybe just add some more things and then I'll be back. So I've made a fairly drastic decision. I've decided to slow the tempo down from 120 to 95 BPM. I've also added in this little synth thing and created another snare and changed the beat up a little bit. I'll just play you what I've got. I think it's pretty cool. I like it slower than at 120. I don't know. I just kind of wasn't feeling it, so I started to change things around. And first thing I did was change this down, and 95 kind of sat well. So I reckon I'm gonna now start bringing it into the arrangement view, and then start working on it in there. And I will be back. Okay, so I've dragged it into arrangement view and added a few more things. I'll show you what I've added first. I've added this pad sound, which is pretty cool. I played this in on my Nord. It's just a basic kind of sound on there that I've affected. I'll play you this. Which is pretty cool. So what I've done here to get this kind of wubby effect at the end, I've got an auto pan on here and I've just automated the amount. I've also got the phase on here. So what I've done is initially I drag the phase down to 0. And then basically what that does is just basically makes auto pan act as a automated like volume changer. And I've set the rate so that it's in sync rather than in hertz. Synced it to 16th notes. Changed the offset to 180 so that it gets so that it comes up right at the start. Otherwise it goes down and it doesn't sound as nice. And then change the shape so that it's like a rectangle, so it's flat at the top. You can muck around with this if you want to as well. It just kind of becomes smoother the less value the shape is on. Next thing I've added is added this crash as well. It's just a sample. This noise burst is, again, it's just noise that I've just made a little burst here. You'll hear it when I play the whole thing. And this percussion loop, what I did, I took some bits of the coffee loop, the coffee machine sample, and then chucked them together. And then went in here, quantized it, and roughly quantized it. And then what I did, I drew in just some random transposition modulation. And then what you can do with the envelopes, which is pretty cool, is you can have them unlinked. So this is what I'm going to do right now. Just drag it back to wherever. You can see I've got the grid off at the moment. And if the envelope is on unlinked, then the envelope will have its own loop length as the clip goes along. So independent of the clip loop length, the modulation will have its own loop length as well. So you can get kind of this thing that never quite lines up again since the start. So I'm going to have that there, and then we're going to have a listen to this little 8-bar loop that I've got. I think it's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is start arranging it, and then I will be back. So I've got a little bit of something here. I've got about almost 2 minutes worth of stuff. I won't play the whole thing to you, but I've got this little bit of an intro going on. Just kind of everything fades in. Kind of cool. So what I did, there's this little Atmos thing which I'll show you. I took this part of the first sample right here. I think it was that one, or it was this one. I think it was that one. And I took it, I stretched it out by like 20 times, probably more, and then turned it into like this thingy. Really nice and atmospheric. And I added these noise up and downs. This is like a little sample that I just I have on me that I just made ages ago. Just like a noise rise that I often affect, especially with flanges, because with flanges you can get this kind of, you can get a really cool pitch riser out of white noise. So to show you, automating the delay time and the feedback. And I've also put a noise down, just like a down noise sweep. Pitched it a little bit so it's different. And yeah, I'll kind of go through this, and I've introduced the background synth in a bit of a different way as well, which kind of sounds cool. And yeah, I'll just play from like here. So just listening to this now, what I think it needs is some kind of melody. So I'm going to come up with something and then I will be back. Boom. Okay, so we have a melody. Let me play it for you. I think it's pretty cool. It's 16 bars long. That's not something that I often do, have a 16 bar long melody, so I quite like it. And yeah, let's continue on with the arranging. Okay, so I've done a fair bit more. I figured I should probably show you before I got too much more carried away. So last thing I showed you was the melody. I've done this kind of breakdown section. I'll just play it for you and then walk you through some of the things that I've done. Cool. So what I've done, I have brought in the clap and hi-hat loop and just filtered that in over the course of this. With the percussion loop, what I've done, I've automated the dry wet of the delay, as well as putting in a beat repeat with a preset. I started with a preset and then just varied it from there. So it kind of gives this random stuttery stuff going on, and having it after the delay also gives some really cool effects as well. So I'll solo that so you can kind of hear what this does. So just there it happened. Every time this little dot here lights up, that's when that's means that it's doing the beat repeat. So that's pretty cool, and having it just as a 54% chance means that it's kind of different every time. So I just like a little bit of variation sometimes. Also filtered in the background synth the same way. Put the Atmos here as well. The exact same as in the start. I should probably crossfade this just to make sure it sounds okie dokie. And also, what else do I've with the chord stabs and the bass, I obviously changed it so it just sits on the same note, so it kind of acts as more of a build up. And also, as well as automating the filter frequency of the chord stabs, both on the auto filter and the actual simpler device itself, I also automated the decay so that it kind of lengthens out as it builds up towards this second kind of drop-ish part. So you can kind of hear what this sounds like. And if I change it so there's the normal kind of decay, you can kind of hear that it's subtle, but it makes a lot of difference in the context of the track. So then you can hear that I've got this second kind of drop started here, and instead of like having the filter frequency all the way down like I do in this first drop section on the chord stabs, I've decided to have it all the way up so it kind of lifts this second drop even more. And then so what I'm going to do, I've got this 8 bars here, then I'm going to do the 16 bar melody again, and then have maybe like an 8 bar outro, I'm thinking. And then that will be pretty well the bulk of the arrangement of the track. So I will be back when that is done. Okay, so I've added this little part onto the end here. I'm going to play it for you from halfway through this part right here from bar 61. And you've already heard that kind of thing before. So one little thing I want to touch on really quickly is this little gap that I've got here at the start of the melody. Eventually I'm going to put in like a bit of a drum fill in there, and I'll put in some drum fills throughout the rest of the track as well. But that will be later on. I'm going to take a break after this. Anyway, so here we go. So as you can kind of hear when the melody comes in, first of all, I've got the melody coming in, I've got it kind of hitting 16th notes, so it's kind of like ticka 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 ticka, like stuttering like that as it builds up towards you. I'll solo it so you can hear it. That's kind of cool. And then obviously you probably heard this. So that's kind of a cool thing that I've done there, just like spacing it out so the melody comes in nice and strong. And yeah, like I said, I'll probably put in a drum fill that matches up with the hits of the melody, sort of like boom, 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 doom, doom, something like that. Could be kind of cool. But unfortunately, I've run out of time for today's session, so I will be back with you guys tomorrow. It won't be too long for you at all, but yes, I will be back, and I'll probably be wearing a different shirt. Alrighty, we are back with day 2 in the studio in this Ableton Live session here, Make a Track Monday, episode 3, all that good stuff. I haven't listened to this track yet today, so what I'm going to do is have a little bit of a listen to it, and then I remember I wanted to add like a drum fill and stuff throughout the rest of the track. So what I might do first, add a bit of an outro, and then add some drum fills, and I'll see you then. Alrighty, so I have added just an 8-bar outro thing, and some fills, as well as some reverse crashes, which are pretty cool. And yeah, I'll just play you what I've done with the drum fills for about here. outro just kind of filters out over the course of 8 bars. Really, nothing too special. The reverse crash. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I'm gonna give the whole tune a listen. Or actually, I suppose first I'll show you what I've done here with the fills. I just found a sample and dragged it in, chopped it up, messed with it, transposed it, panned it, distorted it, frequency shifted it. So just a few things down here. Also had a side chain compressor here, so you can see this. And so I changed it to the kick, and yeah, I'm gonna give it another bit of a listen and see if there's anything else I want to add, and if there's not, then I will get down to a mixing stage. I'll be back. Okay, so I've done a few things that I think are kind of cool. I've added a redux to the bass and the chord stab thingies in transitions, just before transitions. So like in this part. And here. So also what I've done here is what I do a fair bit, just automate a high pass filter on the master channel, as well as the resonance of it sometimes, just to kind of take everything back and then release it and make it so that the drop kind of hits bigger, I suppose. And then what else did I do? I added a little sneaky sub drop in this part just here, which I think kind of fills it out nicely. So I think that's kind of cool. And yeah, I think for the purposes, again, of the Beat Collective submission for BC round 21, this tune is arranged, composed, and everything. If ever you guys want me to go back and revisit a tune that I've done for BC, by all means, just let me know as well, because I more than happily will do that. All right, so I will get down into the mix down stage, and I will see you guys at the end of that. Cool, so I am at a point where I'm pretty happy with this mix down. Got the drums here, got a mono lows on them, just to mono the lows of the kick drum. I'm doing a low cut as well, because there's some weird frequencies, there's some weird things happening, like in the lower frequencies down in the kick drum. So I mean, it's totally inaudible, but it's doing some weird things. So cutting that, boosting it a little bit just to compensate. What have I got here? Some parallel compression, which is nice on these drums. That sounds good. I'll A/B that for you. So this is the drums with the parallel compression. I'll get rid of these things too. And without. It just kind of ties it together a little bit more, adds some nice distortion. Multi-band dynamics to really squish it because they're a little bit out and I couldn't be bothered going in and tweaking them all together. And then some EQ at the end. Here's what it sounds like with them and without all the processing. I think it sounds pretty good. With the synths, kind of a similar thing going on. Some compression at the start, a bit warmer preset that I've just dragged down, that was that 10% dry wet, and an EQ, and some multiband dynamics, and then an auto filter at the end just to get rid of some of the lower frequencies as well. I'll just A/B this for you, just the synths. So this is without everything. And this is with everything. Just kind of brightens everything up, which is nice. And the bass, a mono lows again on this just to make sure. Basic EQ cutting out here, some multiband and another EQ. And again, I'll do the same thing to show you this. So this is without and with, without and with. Super subtle stuff. And with the effects, that's barely even doing anything. That's just a precautionary thing, really. And altogether, this main part sounds like this. I think it's pretty cool. If you're interested in more in-depth look at my mixing, you should check out my Mixing Music in Ableton Live series, which is being updated kind of fortnightly. Episode 3 is next to come on that. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is give this a bit of a quick master, and then yeah, I'll catch you after that. Okie dokie, so we have done a master of the track right here, and yeah, let me just show you what I've done really quickly. An auto filter, just as usual, kind of cutting out those lower frequencies. An EQ just to even things out a little bit, cut some things and turn that off, that's not being used. A master and catch peaks preset with just the threshold drag down a little bit until it starts to tickle that a little bit. A glue compressor with not very much range, just to start to glue things together. A multiband dynamics, which is doing the bulk of the work. I love using multiband dynamics now that I've once I kind of figured out how to use it. Yeah, I love it. Definitely get onto that. I could probably do a video on that at some point. Mid-side EQ, boosting a little bit of the highs in the side, cutting the lows as well, and the mid in the mid, like I usually do. And then my trusty W1 limiter, which is up here. And then the flux stereo tool, which is a nice kind of stereo scope. I'll show you quickly what it sounds like. All right, here we go. I'll just play it from here. So I think that sounds pretty nice. And yeah, for the purposes of this video and this Beat Collective submission, this track, I think, is done. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and found it useful. As always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And also let me know if there's anything I did in this video that you'd like me to cover in more depth, as well as what topics you'd like to see me cover in the future. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Martin, and I'll see you in the next video.